Sweet Baby Inc. is still in the news with more and more drama. So after Akira Toriyama's passing, a particular employee, they said, has tried to say that he was racist.
I wonder why there would be a lack of growth in the industry. Could it be because you have people like this that are the global head of marketing for Xbox? Meet Kelly. Kelly says, raise your hand if you're not a white man and you buy video games. No hate to white dudes. It's just another day in the gaming industry that minorities have to fight to prove they exist.
But all of this doesn't account for Resident Evil 5's most notorious problem: racism.
You are so dumb. This video game was based in South Africa and the zombies were black. I'm just going to take a wild guess here and assume that that's why this video game cannot be remade.
But it seems like Xbox have been spinning tall tales, because some evidence has come out to suggest that Xbox actually are quite hands-on with their studios. But instead of doing it in areas where it could be useful, like quality control or using their experienced engineers to maybe fix some of these games, they're not doing that. Instead, they're forcing DEI into all of their studios' catalogs of titles, and they've even forced some of these studios to hire and work with Sweet Baby Inc.
This ain't got nothing to do with white folks wanting to be a part of Black Girl Gamers. This is Black Girl Gamers getting roasted because they tried to clout chase and it backfired. So, hey.
I mean, that's all it is to it, right? That's all it is to it. And then, of course, they tried to cancel them. Of course, Black Girl Gamers and their sympathizers mass flagged my video.
Forspoken consultant Black Girl Gamers has threatened to sue That Park Place and myself. Video game consultancy organization Black Girl Gamers threatened to take legal action against That Park Place following a report that it appears the company discriminates in their hiring practices. In an article titled "Forspoken Consultant Black Girl Gamers Appears to Discriminate in Their Hiring Practices While Claiming They Are Being Harassed," it was posited that it appeared that the organization was discriminating in their hiring practices based off a post the organization made on X that read, "Looking for Black women content creators that make Dungeons and Dragons content for some potential brand work. Hit us up."
It's like this nonsense about, oh, well, these are your spaces. I've never felt that way. I've been a gamer quite literally my entire life. Never, not on a basis of race, have I felt some way of being excluded. That's absolute nonsense. But again, this is a problem that they create in their own heads, and then they create this dragon that they absolutely need to slay.
And that kicked off even more organization from them, the people who made the Steam group. And then it just kind of leans into the conspiracy theories that plague the internet, that plagued the first iteration of this movement against wokeness or women or people of color in games, and, you know, ultimately led to the playbook of the Trump White House.
Sad. Very sad. Sad.
Department of Homeland Security funding Take This just put out a document demanding that game companies denounce Gamergate 2.
You can see the product inclusion framework we've talked about here from Katie Jo Wright, who has since gone into hiding. Talk about it's important to note that the product inclusion framework is not meant to be a checklist or any sort of mandate of what makes an inclusive game. Rather, the resources and tools within the framework are designed to be a guide for developers. So, you know, that's crap, basically. And Microsoft, from Niche Gamer here, talking about how Microsoft cautioned developers to avoid curvy female characters. It's just pathetic. It's really sad.
Recently, gamers have identified more companies like Sweet Baby Inc. and started boycotting the games that they worked on as well. And that has the establishment very, very cross with the gamers, which just caused a glorious mask-off moment. Bounding into Comics did a great write-up on this. BBC gaming presenter Jules Hardy calls for current Sweet Baby Inc. discourse to end with a final purge of ideological opponents from the medium.
An evil individual places a $20,000 bounty on Grums, aka Mark Kern, for beginning a campaign to uncensor Stellar Blade. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? This this is what we doing right now?
Well, that escalated quickly. Massive legal disclaimer. I make no assertion that anything I say is factually true, nor can I attest to the veracity of any of the claims of third parties. I am merely constructing a thoughtful and sensitive exposition based on what other commentators have allegedly said. And this is all done for the purposes of entertainment and comedy, in good humour and the best possible taste. I would also like to say strongly that I am not encouraging hate. Pity, possibly, but I'm factually not trying to foster animosity against any particular party or player. If their own statements make people dislike them, then don't shoot the messenger. It's not my fault that some of these people have engaged in illegal activities, harassment, illegal hiring practices, and racism. Allegedly. I am here merely as a humble harbinger of peace, and my only goal is to encourage a healthy, intelligent discourse surrounding this whole affair. Even if a lot of the people behind the affair are foul and reprehensible scum. So just add the word allegedly to the end of every single sentence in your head, so I don't have to keep saying it. If there are two things that I hate, it's people that can't do basic maths, hyperbole, and this kind of egotistical, hate-fueled woke activist who is literally single-handedly destroying the very fabric of Western video game entertainment right in front of our eyes. Okay, that is not precisely what's going on here, so maybe I should be more precise. Sweet Baby Inc. generally, and more specifically the Chief Propaganda Officer, Kim Belair, are a bunch of fairly unlikable, fundamentally dishonest, viciously bullying, highly manipulative, victim card playing ideologues, who for some reason think it's acceptable to launch personal attacks on members of the public, engage in cross-platform brigading, attempt to get some random dude cancelled, and when they are called out on their bullshit, immediately cry wolf and proclaim that they are the victims of a right-wing hate conspiracy. That old chestnut. And yes, judging her based on her own video presentations and interviews, she is egotistical. She hates Whitey, and as she stated herself at a GDC presentation, she wants her and her woke, non-white acolytes to take over video games. If bullshit grew on trees, these guys would be plantation owners, and all the slaves would be white. It also certainly appears to be true that her company has literally helped to destroy many video game titles and franchises. I shit ye not. Sweet Baby Inc. being involved with a video game is the kiss of death. The game is factually and evidently going to be a sack of shit once her consultancy firm, read Neo-Marxist Political Thought Police, has finished editing your scripts, characters, and stories, and turn the game into the sort of woke slurry, neo-Marxist propaganda that we are all gagging on routinely in these odd times, while sitting there wondering how Vladimir Lenin could still be so influential over culture over a century after his death. However, Sweet Baby Inc. are not the prime mover in all of this. They are a small, corrupt cog in a much bigger machine. In fact, this company and vile activists that work for them are better described as a rather distasteful and malevolent bunch of bullies, brigaders, blackmailers and DDoSers. According to their own admissions at least, who are exploiting opportunities that exist because of the wider manufactured and deliberately engineered crisis in Western society at large. As Razorfist almost certainly correctly points out, video games were largely ignored by the general wokeification of neo-Marxist provocateurs, and then out of the blue video games became the biggest single sector of the global entertainment market, and suddenly these guys had to play catch up in a hurry, a factor that has made it oh so much more obvious than how TV and movie culture gradually got transformed like a frog being boiled in a pot. But more of this later. When I set out to make this video, I considered the critical importance of impartiality, neutrality, and the necessity of trying to see this from both sides. After all, many would say that it's essential to treat all parties involved with equal consideration, respect their lived truth, and try and find a middle ground where we can find some kind of resolution that is fair to all involved. Then I had another chug on my beer and thought, nah, fuck that. A lot of people involved in this shit show are factually fully verified scum. They have a blue checkmark issued from the School of Arseholery, and after all, this is mostly a story about karma. Besides, I'm fucking done trying to stay neutral on what people are calling the culture wars, because frankly, I have a slightly different take on it than most. The culture wars is not just some isolated clash of opinions on Twitter, and I think it is very dangerous to trivialise it as such. The culture wars are a symptom of a wider malaise, and not truly an entity in and of itself. There are some legitimately shady fuckers on this planet promoting batshit crazy propaganda, and the culture wars is just what happens when the different sides clash in the town square. Because villagers don't just fight in the town square for no reason. They got riled up first, and then headed to the town square to duke it out. I'm sure algorithms make it worse, but they amplify, they do not cause the conflict. There are genuinely bad actors bankrolling this shit. Bad actors who see the general population as peons that need to be manipulated and contained, and diversity, equity and inclusion is a small part of that puzzle. When incidents like this spew out into the streets, it's because a lot of issues have been cooking off slowly in the background, and someone just threw petrol on the fire. So no, I am not going to try and fence sit on this one, nor make excuses for anyone. Sweet Baby Inc. are a bunch of bad actors, like many of these consultancy groups, and they themselves are being bankrolled by other bad actors. And I want to talk about the whole wider shit show, and I'm not going to bother being particularly pleasant about it, because trying to find some alleged middle ground or some kind of equivalence between the parties involved with this horror show would be like sitting a rapist and his victim down in a room and trying to find some kind of common ground where they could both see it from the other person's perspective. Some people do bad things and they get what's coming to them. There ain't going to be much cultural relativism going on here today. And just to stress this point, Sweet Baby Inc. are not the architects of any grand plan. They are barely the agents. If ESG, DEI and the whole woke agenda was the Death Star, then Klaus Schwab would be the Emperor, and nasty little self-interested racketeers like Sweet Baby Inc. would merely be stormtroopers. Possibly those shady officers in the black costumes? And the stormtroopers are the angry mob they manipulate? And perhaps that is crediting them with more agency than they deserve. As I discuss this issue, I will use the word woke a lot. Sorry about that. What can I do? If I use the word woke, you know exactly what nexus of arseholery and pig fuckery I'm referring to. And trying to use another, more context-specific word in each instance would yield fractional results in clarity at the expense of many hours of lexical effort. We all know what woke means, so let's not beat around the cultural Marxist bush. The following phenomenon is now all too familiar to modern gamers. Some video game publisher you used to like is releasing a new game, or maybe the next part of your favourite franchise you used to love. You have great expectations. Everyone is telling you to be super excited. Despite your cynicism, even you are feeling slightly excited. And then it releases, and you immediately recognise the pungent stench of woke shite. The Last of Us 2. Suddenly the white male hero turns into an incompetent, simping, fail-case buffoon, and is promptly killed off by a chromosomally challenged swamp beast with a golf club. It's a symbol of the patriarchy. Get it? Ellie is now an obnoxious little ungrateful lesbian heterophobic brat, and the arguably new main character is now a violent, self-righteous, steroidal, gender non-binary murderer / gorilla / pig scarer. It's almost like someone mistook the phrase moral ambiguity for the mantra of bad people are the new heroes. Although as a footnote I would say there is nothing non-binary or gender ambiguous about Abby. If you whacked her with an electric cattle prod and forced her into the cattle shed, she would immediately get classified as a bad-tempered female ox, who has been getting far too many Winstrol injections. But I digress. And before anyone accuses me of any isms, phobicides or hate speeching, Abby is a shit computer animated video game character. It's not real life, so get over it. Another example of this phenomena would be Starfield. Oh, Todd, you honestly didn't catch it from me, Howard. We had such high hopes of you. Well, I didn't, but lots of other people did, because it's taken them over a decade to get the memo that he is pissing down gamers' backs and telling them that it's raining. And for some strange reason, the plot of Starfield was boring, sterile, and you spend most of the time being girl-bossed by your multi-ethnic female leadership team, whilst doing fucking gig work. Fable. A trailer rolls out and the player character is some manner of non-binary troll beast, with a slight case of top lip fuzz, and a face in a worse state than a well-used dog's chew toy. If they had put Rodney fucking Trotter in a medieval dress and slapped a comedy wig on him, it would be considered an upgrade. I'm sorry, but she has a face like a dropped pie, and just using the word she makes me anxious that I might get into trouble for misgendering Rodney's ugly second cousin. Alan Wank 2. What a shit show. They race swapped the main character so she's now a rather uncharming black racist, who shuffles around grumbling about how white people are shit. When it comes to video games being problematically ideological and pushing the trans, DEI, woke, progressive, white people as problematic / oppressor agenda, the list, as they say, is potentially endless. It's almost like a few years back, someone decided to sack all the good writers and narrative directors and replace them with racist skanks from neo-Marxist Twitter. Which is what they did. Now the well-informed gamer and anyone following this saga will probably already know the punchline here. All of these games and more have one army of scum in common. Sweet Baby Inc. consulted on all of these video games. And here is the real punchline. They claim they helped make them better. According to their website at least. If there was ever to be a legal case for deceptive marketing, well, that is one right there. Clearly their idea of better is some amalgamation of cultural Marxist propaganda, heterophobic put-downs, getting rid of all the sexy outfits, getting rid of all the sexy female characters, making everyone either trans, a person of colour, gay, or just plain uglier than a stamped-on birthday cake. And this is all combined with a few good tellings off for Whitey, some complaints about the patriarchy, and it's all just about as tiresome, patronising and infantile as you would expect, and it's less fun than going to a drag race with Greta fucking Thunberg. But let's keep trudging through this shit show, shall we? This is all very well-worn ground now, but basically video games are turning into woke shit shows. Customers hate it, and when they complain, they get labelled as haters, toxic, racist or homophobic. Rinse and repeat. Release a game that insults the player's intelligence. When the player complains, insult the player's integrity. When the profits plummet, insult the players for sabotaging the entire project. Then do the same shit a few months later with some different game. It's bad for the industry, it's bad for the creative arts, it's usually disastrous for profits, yet surprisingly good when arranging funding deals for production. Because of ESG. But most importantly, it's very bad for the customers who are genuinely getting furious about this woke shitshow that seems obsessed with political lectures and covering up titties, while seemingly not caring about narrative, quality and entertainment. But somehow, for some strange reason, this shit keeps getting subsidised by government funding bodies in the West, supported by all the awards bodies in video game, film and TV, supported by the advertisers, and thoroughly cheered onward by BlackRock and people like Vanguard. This entire Sweet Baby stink shitshow has blown up on the internet, and it's being covered very well, in great detail, blow by blow, and with a level of professionalism far beyond my abilities. Obviously, the only coverage coming from the legacy woke media is siding with Sweet Baby. They are calling gamers rude names, obviously, and completely ignoring the, facts. Like the significant fact that this all started when Sweet Baby Inc. literally orchestrated an online harassment campaign targeting a Brazilian gamer. Initially, it wasn't covered at all by the woke legacy media, but they're currently firing up a healthy Gamergate 2 style coordinated attack on Sweet Baby Inc.'s critics. Just like the last time around. You know the drill, the death of the male gamer articles scenario. They are writing stories about how Sweet Baby Inc. are being attacked by racist, homophobic gamers. Sweet Baby Inc. are the victims in all of this. Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't even do the things they say they do. Ergo, the claims that Sweet Baby Inc. do anything more than minor adjustments and tweaks to the finished products is a lie. And in a more sinister development, elements in the publishing, legacy media and consultancy industry are calling for the direct intervention of the authorities. Obviously, the legacy media defence of Sweet Baby Inc. is all incredibly problematic for the following reasons. People are not attacking them on the basis of race. They are pissed off that their involvement with games has become the hallmark for utter woke trash certification. Sweet Baby Inc. are not the victims here. In fact, the whole scenario went full Streisand effect precisely because someone started a Steam group called Sweet Baby Inc. Detected so that people could avoid their woke shit when purchasing video games. Because capitalism and freedom of choice. And then Kim Belair, the Führer and CEO, had one of her staff decide to whip up some fan activists and begin a campaign to target, harass and shut down the Steam users' accounts. By my reckoning, posting comments like "report the shit out of this account" and implying that you wanted to see his Steam account shut down permanently, and publicly making statements encouraging the masses to target and harass the person breaks more rules and possibly laws than I could count without a media lawyer. At the bare minimum, they violated YouTube's terms of service for brigading off platform and Twitter's terms of service for brigading on it. And let's not forget that one senior member of Sweet Baby Inc.'s activist staff has bragged publicly about DDoSing people in the past. Quite how a public figure can brag about committing these acts and not get arrested is beyond me. It's almost like someone is protecting them from prosecution and criticism. And lastly, despite legacy media articles claiming the contrary, Sweet Baby Inc. do vastly more to interfere with the game than they are now claiming. Upper Echelon rightly pointed out in his rather canny research of CEO Kim Belair's early interviews, they do precisely what they're being criticised for. They get in early, turn the game into a slurry of woke shit, then brag about it. Any claim that they merely do a little tinkering on the finished product is an absolute factual lie, for at least two reasons. 1. Kim Belair is on record in interviews bragging about how she turns the game upside down with progressive crap and uses fucking blackmail and terror tactics to achieve her ends. And 2. 3 members of Sweet Baby staff got writing credits, including one lead writing credit on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. 3. Kim Belair, has stated herself that her ultimate goal is to get her woke cohorts of colour and neo-Marxism to take over the video game space. So yeah, or actually no, the defence mounted by legacy media is a huge fucking pack of lies. Sweet Baby Inc. are the people that attacked someone else. They were not attacked, they are not victims. They started this whole shit show by brigading against someone and trying to get one of their critics bullied, harassed, cancelled, whilst incurring him significant financial pain. And Sweet Baby do exactly what they're being criticised for. They turn up like Chinese Communist Party officials and shovel buckets of woke shit into your video game, and if the developers don't like it, they trundle down to the marketing department to use fear tactics to get the devs overruled. These guys are to consultancy what the fucking Gestapo was to friendly chats with the local French community during the occupation. It's all crocodile smiles and jocular chat, but if you say the wrong thing, you're getting packed on the cattle truck for a long slow ride to Poland.
And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
But before we stride into the non-gendered changing rooms with our spray can and get to work on the graffiti, I would just like to say this. I have glossed over the events thus far because I do not just want to rehash information you already know, throw in some swearing and hyperbole and repackage it as my own. Lots of other people are doing an excellent job of covering the death spiral of this aeroplane, so I decided to do something slightly different. I decided to take a step back and have a look at the wider implications of all of this, because Sweet Baby Inc. does not exist in isolation nor out of time. They're not just some random insular group of activists who got lucky with Canadian public funding. You know Canada, right? It's that nice country, run by that black fella who got voted in twice. By China. I decided to look beyond the news cycle and place these foot soldiers of chaos in context, because they are foot soldiers. They are the worker ants of DEI, ESG and woke activism, and even though they undoubtedly believe all the shit they're spouting, they don't appreciate that despite being propagandists, they are the victims of propaganda themselves. They were probably educated by lecturers dripping in critical race theory, radicalised on TikTok, and now here they are, promoting the interests of the world's biggest investment banks, our foreign adversaries, and Saudi oil princes. How funny is that? There are reasons why they think they're the good guys, even if those reasons are a lot to do with political indoctrination, selfishness, egomania, self-delusion, rationalisation, and greed. But ultimately their special kind of bile, vitriol and lust for revenge is straight out of the fascist/communist revolutionary playbook. Convince a bunch of people that every failure in their lives is the fault of someone else, give them a target group to blame and hate, wind them up like a mechanical toy and watch them break all the rules of moral and civil order as they exact their revenge. Anyone who knows my channel is probably painfully aware that I have been banging on for years about wokery, egregious monetization, loot boxes and the corruption of the video game industry. But on this particular issue, I have to recognise that I am standing on the shoulders of giants. Before this blew up recently, I had only briefly mentioned Sweet Baby Inc. And that was only because I heard of it through Synthetic Man, and the majority of my knowledge of the current issue is drawn by watching videos by people like Upper Echelon, Razorfist, Side Scrollers, Heels vs Babyface, Geeks and Gamers, and It's a Gundam. That nice little fella who looks like an action dolly. Thanks to these guys, and I acknowledge my reliance on their reporting. I salute thee. Before we get the Lysol out and start cleaning the rabid spittle of woke-tard off our sunglasses, I need to make a few qualifications, especially because some of the people watching this video might be rancid, blue-haired, neo-Marxist foot soldiers whose only understanding of the world is based on lies. Any legacy news article you read making any of the following claims about the current situation is a factual, verifiable, despicable lie. It's a right-wing conspiracy. It's a hate campaign against Sweet Baby. It's connected to Kiwi Farms, who get blamed for pretty much everything these days. It's based in racism and homophobia. And lastly, that anyone is being targeted for organised harassment other than the harassment campaign started by Sweet Baby Inc. themselves. This situation is shockingly simple. A Brazilian gamer dude started a Steam group listing public domain information about games Sweet Baby Inc. had worked on / fucked up, basically because they were all shit, and to serve as a warning to others. Something we are all immensely grateful for, I would add. Staff at Sweet Baby launched a harassment campaign against the dudes, and this created a Streisand effect, with the Steam group going from a little known entity in the corner of the internet to having over 250,000 followers now. Now, lots of people who play video games have risen up because 1, they don't like corporations trying to get some random guy cancelled, and 2, nobody likes Sweet Baby Inc. because every game they touch turns to fucking shit. Do some homework if you think differently, because these are the verifiable facts. Just because the legacy media is publishing literal barefaced lies about the situation does not change reality. Christ, it's got to the point where the legacy media is publishing lies, then admitting that they're publishing lies. Oh, and I suppose I should qualify my political allegiances. Or lack thereof. Especially since anyone speaking out against Sweet Baby Inc.'s online bullying campaign, or games turning to woke shit, will apparently get automatically branded as a right-wing conspiracy theorist. I am, for want of a better way of putting it, politically agnostic. I think this is important because I like to analyse things, and the enemy of 21 Kiloton Science Lab is being emotionally and politically invested in any given ideology. I don't want to have an axe to grind if said axe means I'm forced to say what is consistent with my beliefs rather than the reality I see on the ground. Don't get me wrong, I fucking love axes. Check out Ben Scott's channel and you'll be putting gleaming racing axe edges on your heads after just a few days. But metaphorically, I don't like having one I need to grind. And besides, I think I owe it to you to say what I think, rather than what I think you want to hear, even if that sometimes means triggering people. Like Doom Eternal fans, because they are such sensitive little flowers. I believe in general principles like equality, freedom of speech, reason and logic, justice for all, tolerance, liberty, the fair application of law, small government, universal human rights, and being nice to each other. Begrudgingly, I think it's okay to have differences of opinion as long as your opinions don't require or force me to comply to your mandates or directed speech codes. To use a specific example, if you identify as a cat and your idea of a great Saturday night out is being buggered over the dustbins by 6 other furry tomcats, then you be the best version of you, my freaky furry friend. Just don't expect me to use your fucking cat pronouns, and don't accuse me of microaggressions for cringing when you tell me what you did at the weekend. You feel me? You do you. Everybody stay calm. We can all settle this matter at the ballot box. Subject to ballot stuffing, recounting giant sacks of postal ballots and throwing out the election monitors because reasons. I am not loyal to any political party or politician because they are not loyal to me. I wouldn't trust most of them to wipe their own asses, let alone cover mine. I just want to be able to have my opinions, talk about them, cause no harm to others, and then vote about them in free elections, according to my own conscience. Apparently this is all too much to ask for these days, but more of this later. This is all a very long-winded way of saying, if you think I'm a fucking Nazi or a white supremacist, because I don't like racists of colour, then you are the fucking Nazi. Oh, and if you don't know, and I'm always shocked by how many people don't know this, but the E in DEI stands for equity, not equality. I love equality, but equity, that is making the sons pay for the sins of their fathers. DEI is not anything to do with equality and equal rights. In fact, it's the exact fucking opposite. Equality of opportunity means everything is fair. Nobody gets discriminated against based on race, sex or religion. Equity is a very different beast. It means that you should treat people differently based on innate characteristics. It means if there are 3 candidates, you can't pick the best one if he is white. It means you might have to pick the disabled trans lesbian because quotas. It means that meritocracy is out of the fucking window. It means Mary in accounting gets paid more than Bill because she is gay and faces more difficulties in the workplace, which clearly is not true if she has preferential status. It means that people who tick lots of boxes get preferential treatment and are virtually impossible to fire. It means if you tell your co-worker that you're a Christian, you might lose your job because the other box-ticking employees claimed they didn't feel safe around you. Equity is a policy that assumes evil white people make the world a horrible place, and people who are not that demographic deserve a slice out of your wage packet and more rights and preferential access to work because of some perceived crime committed by your forefathers hundreds of years ago, even though the majority of all slave traders around the world were not actually white, and even the white slave traders were buying the slaves from non-white slavers in the first place. History is so much more complicated than political narratives, and it doesn't even rhyme like the protesters' slogans. Equity is a spiteful and vengeful policy of targeting straight white people. It is punitive, it's racist, it is discriminatory, it is unconstitutional frankly, and certainly in the UK, it's technically illegal. But good luck trying to get a police officer to investigate. They're too busy arresting Christian preachers. So let's set the scene. Before we can discuss Sweet Baby Inc. and the implications of their existence, I need to look at the wider context. So gather around the fire, my brethren. This is going to be a long and meandering tale, where you will be rapidly dashed through decades of history on a golden flying unicorn, across hill and dale, past history of corporate governance, over a Swiss mountain resort full of evil bastards, and half the prostitutes in southern Europe according to local media sources, not even kidding, so that you can fully understand the landscape and Sweet Baby Inc.'s place within it. This way we can all make a bit more sense of why large corporations have found themselves in a position where they are paying a bunch of shitlord activists to basically ruin their games. And I will give you a clue. It's because the alternative is worse, because that might damage their ESG rating and reduce the valuation of their company by firms owned by BlackRock. Allegedly. So let's begin our merry little journey through the shitscape of modern technocratic governance. Many years ago I heard a bizarre story about these literally insane investment bankers in the USA who wanted to monetize everything. Right down to the very air that you breathe. Not even fucking kidding. Their rationale was this. If you want to go to a national park, breathe fresh air and enjoy nature, well you should have to pay for that shit. Everything should be monetized, have a value associated with it, and then it can be bought, sold, rented, traded as a commodity, and people could gamble on its future value. If a giant corporation wants to chop down all the trees in Yellowstone Park, build a giant sulphur mine, maybe a geothermal power station or two, and possibly stick all the wildlife in a zoo with a massive open-air car park, or even make exotic burgers out of the bears. If they bought the rights, that's just fucking groovy. And if you, or anyone else thinks it's a bad idea, then you should stump up the cash, buy the land, resources, and the air above the park in order to protect it. But make no mistake, this was nothing about saving the environment. This was about monetization. And if you can excuse the egregious pun, it was all about making money out of thin air. Because if you can monetize literally every single thing in the environment and turn it into a commodity, you have now literally just magicked quadrillions of dollars of tradable assets out of the ether and snaffled it away from common ownership. I just listened in awe at how stupid and fucking evil these assholes were. It was like some dystopian science fiction nightmare, and I dismissed the lot of them as cranks and forgot all about it, because frankly, they sounded like a bunch of lunatic clowns, right? Not so fast. Because relatively recently I started reading about Klaus Schwab's plan for our enforced, undemocratic, digitised future. And when I say reading about, I'm not talking about right-wing conspiracy websites. I'm talking about the stuff that both he and the World Economic Forum publish in both print and online. I looked at the modern environmental movement, environmental, social and governance metrics, carbon taxes and the whole shit show, where we are expected to use less, have less, pay more, and everything is getting a carbon footprint assigned to it, which soon we will be expected to pay for. And I suddenly realised, it took these crazy clown investment bankers a good few years to figure it out, but they finally did it. They have figured out a way to monetize literally everything and snaffle it away behind a paywall by using the environmental narrative. And more precisely, to use modern fiscal parlance, it's about tokenizing everything. So ultimately it can be put on some kind of ledger and then traded through a blockchain. And I'm not talking about a nice decentralized blockchain, I'm talking about a government controlled one. And when I say put on a ledger, that specifically also includes being taken away from you and ownership given or traded to some other party. But why stop there? Theoretically, you can tokenize pretty much everything. Just look at China. Once everything is digitized, you can track and trace every aspect of a human life, including behaviours, right down to the people you meet and the web pages you browse. Now, I am blurring the line here between strict tokenization and the wider rollout of social engineering architecture, e.g. social credit systems, but I hope you see my general point here. It was not that long ago that people had crazy ideas about taking stuff that was free, monetizing it, removing it from our common ownership, and then trying to bill people for its consumption. Now, just a short time later, we have people at Davos encouraging credit card companies to apply a tokenized value of carbon credits on every purchase and charge the consumer a penalty associated with each thing they buy, even though, the last time I checked, there was no measurable relationship between screwing cash out of people and saving the fucking planet from some impending catastrophe that's been due within the next 10 years, every decade since the 1960s. Congratulations, they finally found a way to monetize the very air that you breathe, and the shocking thing is, they are already trying to roll this shit out on the Western populations. And before anyone loses their shit, I love nature. And even though some form of apocalyptical catastrophe appeals to me on a primal level, I don't want to cause it. I'm just pointing out that the climate movement is started to look like the old crazy dude holding the end of the world is nigh sign last century. And even if it's going to happen, I need to see more unbiased evidence proving 1. That we are doing it, and 2. There is anything we can do to stop it. But I do factually know that 99% of the time when someone is bleating on about the environment, they just want your money, your liberty and your freedoms. Anyways, as I will keep saying, this is all about money and power, and people with power can get more money, and people with lots of money have lots of power. Think I'm being cynical? Well, please explain to me why scrapping an entire country's petrol cars and replacing them with even less environmentally friendly electric cars, carrying a half-ton of lithium battery, which is actually no greener than the coal-powered fucking electricity it's being charged with, is going to help the environment. Especially when EVs have the highest junk rate in automotive history. Entire fleets of EVs are being binned because the batteries crapped out after only a few years and it's too expensive to replace them, and certainly here in the UK you'll struggle to get them fully insured because they blow up with such regularity, filling the air with environmentally friendly toxic gases and biodiverse billowing smoke.
There just aren't enough charging stations. So in order to build out the electrical system that we need in order to have a nationwide EV program, we need to basically increase, low end, the amount of electricity generation and throughput of our system by about half. Now, there's only been 1 year since the 1960s where the United States has ever increased the amount of electricity generated by more than 3%. And that was the year we came back from COVID, and so we didn't have to install any new infrastructure for that. We would have to generate the sort of build-out that we did back in the 50s when the country was electrifying for the first time. And that's going to require an order of magnitude more, almost 2 orders of magnitude, well, let's call it 20 times more, equipment when it comes to things like transformers and cables than we have done in 75 years. And if we started building out the facilities necessary to build those things today, they will not be ready at scale within 4 years. And then you can begin the build out in 4 years and it'll still take another decade. So no. But finally, I mean, the EV manufacturers really don't pay any attention to any of this. The real issue is that sales are down.
Please don't misunderstand me. I am not anti the environment. And on principle, I support the general concept of electrically powered road vehicles that spontaneously combust, burn down entire multi-storey car parks, burning so hot the steel reinforced concrete buckles and they have to evacuate people because of the toxic fumes. I love all that shit. I'm merely floating the idea that without grants, creative accounting and highly dubious green credentials based on offsets, it's a bit of a reach to claim EVs are saving anything but the car industry. Because they certainly ain't saving the environment. It was never about the environment. Money and power. Follow the receipts. Just think about the logistics. Get governments to force people to scrap their petrol cars, get governments to subsidise the car manufacturers, get them to subsidise the consumers. It's a giant financial and environmental accounting scam. And you would have been better off planting a couple of trees, putting a fucking dream catcher up in your window and maybe hanging some of those weird wooden chimes by your front door. And possibly smoking a bit of weed and changing your screensaver to a picture of some crusty brat. This was all about the money, and this will become important later too. Now, I'm not saying that environmental issues are not important. As I said, I love swamps, volcanoes and jungles full of those fish that swim up your penis. Just like any red-blooded male, I need a place to burn tyres, bury hookers and hunt deer, rabbit and lone female hikers. I'm sure there is climate change going on right now. I know this because the one scientific fact we know for sure is this. The climate is always changing. It has long and short-term cycles, and we know for a fact that the weather is influenced by other factors like ocean cycles and solar activity. Even the communist BBC believes that. But there are 2 things we absolutely can't say are facts. 1, it's human activity causing it all. And 2, environmental activism will make any fucking useful difference whatsoever. As became apparent in a recent congressional committee, everyone is bitching and whining about carbon emissions because CO2 levels are going through the roof. But when asked, most greenies did not know the amount of CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere. 20%? 30%? 50%? The percentage of CO2 in the atmosphere is 0.04%. A couple of hundredths of 1%. And the grand totality of human CO2 contributions are responsible for a few parts per million extra, which is frankly nothing compared to natural historical fluctuations. So yeah, maybe humans are destroying the planet. I'm just saying that modern environmental science is a bit of a fucking scam. And the real damage to the environment probably has more to do with physical damage like this. Scotland might be beautiful, but it used to be a forest. Maybe plant some fucking trees and let people buy cheaper petrol cars. Besides, China and India produce the majority of all CO2 pollution on the planet, and that pollution is increasing year on year. So it's not like anything we do in the West is going to make a damn bit of difference anyway. When talking about the modern drive for social equity, public discourse, enforcement, and the politicisation of media, it's worth noting that both communism and capitalism are doing social credit scoring now, only using their respective tactics and architecture. It's the same shit done differently, ergo according to their respective economic models. In communist China, the government are the enforcers, and here in Western countries, the government is getting the social media companies and banks to be the enforcers. We might be a few years behind the Chinese, but it's the exact same gig, only the commies use the social credit app, and in capitalist countries, we're using a combination of government pressure, police intervention, and corporate governance. Ergo, ESG compliance. Essentially, in a state-run economy, the state enforces it. In a capitalist economy, the corporations enforce it, via ESG regulations. Remember when PayPal was going to try and fine its customers $2,500 for every instance of online hate speech or misinformation? Remember the people who had been deplatformed for their political beliefs? Remember when Susan Wojcicki, CEO of YouTube, went to Davos and told the World Economic Forum how she had implemented an undesirable content list? Blacklist, basically, so it could target and suppress non-compliant voices? Because they were super worried about Trump getting elected and they didn't want to let that happen again. Did you know that the UK police have started using terms like stakeholder in their training material, and the concept of stakeholders in society comes straight out of the World Economic Forum playbook on stakeholder capitalism. And stakeholders are the people who pay the bills or invest in the business. The super rich, basically. Think of the way certain political figures have been persecuted by the press. Look at how Canada tracked down people who donated to the truckers' protests and shut down their bank accounts. Look at how in the UK we have a secret non-criminal hate crime database where they are starting to compile lists of people who aren't woke enough. And no, I'm not exaggerating. You can end up on this list for merely saying things like, if you have a cock, you should not be undressing with children in the girls' changing room. Look at how banks are now routinely shutting down accounts all around the Western world because they engage in non-ESG compliant activities. Silver and gold sellers, gun shops, non-woke and anti-woke political organisations, and in some cases, politicians. All this woke shit is not happening in isolation, it's all part of a wider set of directives by a bunch of super rich elites, technocrats, oil princes, and politically corrupt leaders, who honestly think the world would be a much better place if it were restructured into what is now being described as a digitised version of neo-feudalism. So if you really want to understand the massive push with DEI, woke propaganda in video games, and the assaults on freedom of speech, and the critics of change, you need to appreciate that it's a part of a bigger play, and not operating in isolation. I guess, since it is so central to all of this, I quickly need to qualify the backstory of ESG and all that World Economic Forum guff. And I need to do it for two very important reasons. One, the whole phenomena of diversity consultants does not exist in a vacuum. It is part of a wider cultural shift which is 100% not natural or organic. It is organised, well-funded, has centralised mechanisms of control, and mostly services the interests of the global banking community. And two, because someone in the room always cries out, "That's a conspiracy theory," without having the gumption nor diligence to actually spend the fucking requisite 3 minutes on the internet to at least see that people like me are not making this shit up. It's all in the public domain, and I will keep hammering that point until you are sick of hearing it. Everything I discuss in this video is in the public domain. The same sinister bastards who are promoting it are bragging about it at Davos, then posting videos on YouTube or publishing it in books. It's not even an open secret. It's fucking published. Essentially, ESG is a means by which you can link social and political value judgments and behaviours to capital, corporations and commerce. It's a way of slapping social diktats and social manipulation onto financial transactions. And the hilarious part of this is the companies responsible for the ratings are entirely in on it, totally self-interested and on the payroll, and produce the most ridiculous assessments that defy logic. But put very simply, it means that if I sell coffee in my cafe, the bank might shut down my bank account because I'm a patriotic Christian coffee shop. Or I might have to avoid buying my coffee beans from a certain company because my ESG rating might be reduced because of the risks of reputational harm by associating with them publicly. You know, just like with the Chinese social credit score system. If a person hangs around with someone with a low score, their social credit score goes down too, so you need to avoid them like the plague. It's guilt by association, basically. Who has the fucking right to impose social rules on capitalist transactions? There are legal transactions or illegal transactions. Period. That's the only metric that matters, or should matter. This is a mechanism by which specific corporations like BlackRock can dictate what people do and do not do without legal authority, governmental approval, democratic mandate or any form of oversight. But the real punchline here is that the whole game is rigged by BlackRock anyway, because the companies rating ESG gradings are not objective. If you pay off the right people, tickle the right bums, or you're owned by the right investment companies, they will just let you plant a couple of trees and walk away with an ESG gold star. That's why petrochemical companies frequently get such high ratings, which makes absolutely no logical sense. The E in ESG stands for environmental, right? Now, as much as I love blowing shit up and killing idiots, Rheinmetall AG has a medium ESG score, and that is a company that makes weapons that blow people into kibble, vaporise tank crews, and fire depleted uranium rounds. I like uranium. Ford has a lower ESG rating than Rheinmetall AG, because apparently making giant diesel guzzling artillery vehicles, weapons that frequently end up blowing up schools and hospitals by mistake, and facilitating the dispersion of low-level radiological contaminants into the environment, is vastly nicer than making cars and flatbed trucks. Now personally, I agree with that assessment because wanton destruction and weapons are funny, and Rheinmetall makes some awesome weapons, and I'm a huge fan. In fact, they should score a 100% ESG rating, because surely deleting arseholes off the face of the earth is making the world a better place, right? But I'm merely noting that according to the ESG guidelines, weapons manufacturers should theoretically be the ESG devil incarnate, but they are not, because BlackRock. So what's all this World Economic Forum, Global Reset, DEI, ESG, diversity shitshow all about? It's basically all part of a consolidated big play to restructure Western society, what they refer to as the Great Reset. Well, here is the whole glorious shitshow condensed and dumbed down to the simplest possible form I could manage. And this really is a gross oversimplification because it's enough of a backstory to fill an entire academic career. Forget a book series. So here goes. It's basically a global rug pull remortgage of capitalism organised by the world's global elites, and it goes something like this. And this is grossly oversimplified, Capitalism works, but it has evolved. Some dude makes a widget, and if it's better than someone else's widget, you make profits. But shareholders want more profits year on year. So now you start looking at cost savings. Now you use cheaper widget parts and cheaper labour, import shit from third world shitholes, and try and deliver the absolute minimum viable product for the highest possible price. You lobby and bribe politicians to make new laws and regulations that benefit your widget company and help put other widget companies out of business. You try everything fair and foul to keep making more and more profits year on year. But these kinds of economics have a ceiling on profits and a floor on costs, and then along came two other problems. The world is generally modernising. If there is any place in the world safe enough to outsource labour, the price of that labour has gone up because the standard of living has increased in those countries. America used to outsource their widgets to China, but now they are increasingly outsourcing to places like Mexico and Central America because it's becoming cheaper than China. Sure, you could outsource to third world shitholes like Congo or DRC, but whilst their labour is dirt cheap, the warlords who kidnap your senior managers and ransack the factories impact on profitability and are generally very, very inconvenient and rude. Now add to this that most of the developed, read rich world is heading towards massive demographic collapse, and in the short term that means a quickly ageing population and shrinking of the young demographic that is more likely to spunk its money on widgets. Here is the crux of the issue. The global elite, the 1%ers, the billionaires like George Soros and the like, appreciated that the future, for them at least, is looking pretty grim. Now the world can deal with all of these changes, but we are not talking about the world. We're talking about the global ultra-rich, who have spent generations hoovering up cash from the general populace, some of whom, like the Rothschilds, can be traced all the way back to the French Revolution. The sort of people who want to keep buying more and more super yachts, live on private islands, and pay for girls to be trafficked to their location, abused, and then dumped in the Pacific Ocean, allegedly. Capitalism is topping out. As a means of ripping the rest of us off like a Ponzi scheme at least. And they don't want this party to end. They are also terrified of the democratising power of the internet and how they can't bullshit the population so easily anymore. In the good old days, they could just tell the 4 leading newspapers to run a story and the 3 news channels to do a piece to camera. But now media is everywhere. People are seeking their own news on the internet. Legacy media is well and truly dying, and nobody trusts it anymore anyway. These guys want more profit year on year, and they don't want that to stop. But the markets are maxing out, profits are maxing out, the population is getting older, the population will eventually be getting smaller, the population is getting much better informed. Essentially, your widgets are getting more and more expensive to make, there are less and less people around to buy them, and the demographics that buys them the most is already collapsing. And you can no longer lie to them effectively to get them to buy more, pay more, and shut the fuck up about it. And when you look closely at some of the batshit crazy ideas coming out of Davos, you come to the chilling conclusion that some evil billionaire scratched his head and said, "Don't you think everything was better in medieval times? The rulers owned everything, the peasants owned nothing. They scraped away in the mud, doing all the work, and the rich sat there in their castles drinking wine. And if any one of the peons complained, the guards would beat the shit out of them, or just execute them. That was a much cooler way to do it. Any chance we could have a high-tech version of the Middle Ages?" You might think that sounds like an exaggeration, but it ain't. Now add to all of this, soon robotics, automation and AI is going to replace a vast amount of jobs. And they want this too because it's cheaper, there's no labour laws involved, and it provides 100% dominion over your operation. They don't want small and medium farmers, they want one giant farm the size of Oklahoma, run by Bill Gates and operated by robots and flying fruit picking drones. Or insect farms. Why bother with outsourcing your call centre to India when you can get an AI chatbot to keep you waiting, fail to help you, and then hang up by mistake instead? Why pay people to write stories and game guides for Kotaku? You could get AI to do that. It would be much cheaper, and the office would smell nicer. The quality of journalism would be vastly superior, and you wouldn't even have to fill your office with semi-literate former sex workers and political activists. I am actually completely behind this idea, FY. These guys' profit problems are compounded by the fact that it certainly looks like in the next 20 or 30 years there's going to be a Great Depression the likes of which has never been seen before. Only this time it's going to be a giant golden horde of unemployed people, and since the state ain't going to provide them with jobs, they will have to provide them with social services and a universal basic income. And if these guys are going to have to deal with that problem and increase profits, that means confiscating all of our stuff, throwing us in pods, feeding us mealworms, and clamping down on social control so we can't revolt about things like, why do we all have to live like gulag inmates whilst our rulers live on private islands and sail around in super yachts? And this is what the Great Reset is really about. It's a way to solve the problem of how the 1%, the people who go to Davos, can stay at the top of the pile and keep increasing their slice year on year by essentially resetting the clock on capitalism, changing all the rules and putting them in charge of everything. Or to be more precise, they want free market capitalism for them and neo-feudalism for the rest of us peons. It's a long-term strategy to impose complete digitised real-time control and manipulation on the populace, relying on AI, centralised bank digital currencies, surveillance, and changes to property rights, and they're using the weaponisation of the environmental narrative, social equity and anti-hate speech legislation, and diversity paradigms as a means to shoehorn this all into place, whilst silencing any criticism. And as usual, when it comes to unpopular plans, they're deliberately sowing social division to demoralise and disrupt any potential cohesive resistance, combined with influence over legacy media and censorship on social media. And if you don't think Western nations are deliberately sowing division, then ask yourself this. Why the fuck are Western liberal democracies facilitating the mass migration of illegal immigrants almost exclusively from countries that hate our guts? After all, if you absolutely need migrants, there's plenty of nice countries where you can go and get them. This is what uncontrolled mass illegal immigration is about. It's about engineering deliberate social division. This is what all this woke divisive politics is about. It's about infighting and demoralisation, in the Yuri Bezmenev sense. This is what climate lockdowns are about. It's about charging you money to leave your home, warming you up to the notion that freedom of movement is a privilege, a paid service, and not a right. This is what carbon tax is about. It's about getting you used to the idea that anything you do will be charged, and build against some abstract entity of the environment. This is what the global censorship laws are about. It's about clamping down on dissent whilst very unpopular legislation is rolled out, being sold using lies. This is what central bank digital currencies are all about. It's about the government and the central banks being able to trace, track and control every single penny owned by every single person and have the ability to remotely shut them down. This is what the farming crisis is about. It's about crushing the capacity of independent farmers to make cheap food, to create artificial food scarcity, so that people like Bill Gates, who owns the majority of patents on synthetic plant proteins, can swoop in and solve the crisis he is helping to facilitate. This is how arse clowns like Anita Sarkeesian and her organ grinders monkey can get to speak at the UN about online harassment, where they essentially bullshitted so hard and so much, even the UN had to issue a retraction and apology. This is what the energy crisis is about. There is no energy crisis. The UK passed laws, so energy companies essentially pay punitive fines if they undercut their competitors. Germany voluntarily shut down 10 fully functional nuclear power stations. We have untapped oil and gas here in the UK, but we're being pressured into not drilling it. all to counter the abstract notion of the environmental crisis. Since when is shutting down 10 fucking nuclear power stations and replacing it with power stations that run on lignite and natural gas been the environmentally friendly option? I'm certainly no social philosopher, but I would humbly suggest that forcing people to starve whilst they shiver in the dark is more of an actual crisis than some theoretical bad weather in 2030, or is it 2040, 2050? I can't fucking tell, because they change the date of this impending environmental collapse every few years, bumping it up a bit into the future when it doesn't show up. And they've been doing that since the middle of the last century. The world should have fucking ended 5 times by now if any of these predictions had proven true. This is about remonetizing the very basic essence of your existence, so the 1% can take an even bigger slice, so they can continue to get better returns, more power, more control, year on year, and get you to shut the fuck up about it for fear of getting cancelled, deplatformed, or having your bank account shut down. That's why the big banks and investment houses are supporting all this shit. This is why we have constant climate crisis pushed in our grills, everyone being forced to buy EVs that keep you on grid and can be shut down remotely, 20-minute cities, DEI, woke politics, congestion charges, censorship laws, the deliberate disintegration of traditional social values, the deliberate disintegration of gender and sexual identity, ESG, deliberately encouraged division, mass immigration, carbon taxes, the disintegration of traditional standards of fitness, health and beauty, militant trans activism, bankrolled by medical companies, all the other crazy shit being pushed on Western nations. And it all comes along with the euphemistically termed hate law legislation and misinformation policies, which in the UK at least means criticising Islam is a hate crime, but making overtly racist anti-white comments is just fucking peachy. Why carrying an ISIS flag outside Parliament is not punished, but carrying the Union Jack gets you arrested. Why climate activists get released without charge, but an Iranian man holding a flag saying Hamas are a terrorist group gets beaten up and arrested.
You are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything. You are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march.
This is all about divide and conquer, keep the masses squabbling, destroy nationalism and patriotism, crush the ability to complain or object, whilst the corporation-run governments monetize the shit out of every single aspect of life, whilst we're sitting on the sofa shouting at our TV screens and generally getting demoralised. In the Yuri Bezmenov sense, of course. And diversity, equity and inclusion is all part of this puzzle. It's got nothing to do with equality or equal representation. It's all about over-representation, subjugating the voice of the majority, demoralising the population, getting people with traditional values kicked out of their jobs, flooding and creating industries with political activists, and making people too afraid to speak up in case they get fucking cancelled or lose their job. This is all about marginalising the majority of the population and turning the public discourse into one about identity, gender, and historic injustice. It's genius, really. It is a huge, diversionary tactic. These activists will spend all day trying to cancel people for some alleged slight against trans identity, but you don't see them challenging Big Pharma or the quality of hospital treatment. They'll smash statues of old white dudes for alleged historical crimes. They don't seem to give a shit about real political crimes going on right now. This activism movement will be openly racist, hateful and bullying, and they do this in the name of making the world a better, more inclusive place. And despite being self-professed experts on what needs to be torn up, smashed down and censored, seem to be utterly silent when it comes to offering some decent alternative or working towards some other system. This is an ideology of deconstruction and literal destruction. And while society is arguing about whether it's okay for BLM activists to be openly racist to white people, the governments are quietly taking away your freedoms, shutting down farms, restricting your freedom of movement, and criminalising free speech. And don't think for a minute it's an accident that the new Scottish hate crime bill makes it illegal to even say something edgy in your own home. It's about Alexa, Echo, and Amazon devices. Certainly based on the news stories I've read, Amazon allegedly gives not one fuck who can access your private data, and there have been cases in both the US and the UK where, for example, it's been alleged that Amazon has passed camera footage and Alexa voice records to the police. Amazon has done this without a warrant on multiple occasions, just a request from the cops, and that even random IT contractors are allegedly given routine full access to your account. So if they wanted to, they could just log into your camera and watch your wife get changed in the bedroom. That specific clause of getting rid of the defence of being in your own home in the Scottish hate crime bill is most likely just there, so that if the government doesn't like you, it can phone up Amazon and get the transcripts of the many tens of thousands of clips of you talking privately in your own home and shape a hate crime case against you. This is all straight out of the Cultural Revolution playbook. So similarly, this is why they are so obsessed with targeting the kids. Get the naive kids on board and they will turn on and rat out the last generation. The Nazis did this, the communists did this, the World Economic Forum is doing this. They might be technocrats who wear suits, but it's the same shit, dressed up in bureaucracy and funding directives. It's about destroying your cultural icons and historical heroes. It's about sowing division and disintegrating patriotism. It's about making sure that when people turn on the TV, they don't see heroes that they can relate to, that might inspire them or give them fortitude. They only see defective old white men or young white subservient allies who are remorseful for their ancestors' crimes and seeks to pay penance for historical slights. White people bad. Get the message? This is why things like children's entertainment and video games are so central to all of this. Catch them young so you can train them to reject the values of their parents. Disintegrate the family structure by training the kids to embrace a belief system that is antithetical to the moral values of the previous generation. This is not about progress. This is about disruption. Destroy the heroes, ban the books that don't spread the politically correct message, smash the statues of old white dudes who helped build your country and replace them with statues of people like St. George of Floyd, patron saint of fentanyl overdoses, thuggery and holding guns at the head of pregnant women whilst his friends rob her blind. And before anyone loses their shit, the coroner in the George Floyd case has already been ratted out in a separate court case for admitting that Floyd died of an overdose, but he was too shit scared to say that because Floyd's death was such a politically charged hot potato that he was worried that telling the truth might end his career. Sweet Baby Inc. and all the other DEI companies nestle amongst this nexus of top-down social directives. This is why companies like this are routinely supported by black bag funding, government grants, donations from Sith Lords like George Soros, and in some cases, I shit you not, the Department of Homeland Security. I will say that again for dramatic but not hyperbolic effect. Some of these video game and entertainment diversity consultants are literally PSYOPs, wholly or partly funded by the government and the three-letter agencies. One of these consultancy firms certainly appears to be a front for Black Lives Matter. If this is all just a conspiracy, it's pretty odd that spooks are funding this shit. Am I right?
You know, a lot of it has layers. So if you're seeing the DEI portion, yeah, that's one layer. There are people who just, it's a political agenda, right? And then underneath that, there's more of like a sinister agenda that has to do with collecting data, surveilling, and the big one, which is expanding the definition of terrorism to include a broader segment of society. So whereas, you know, terrorism used to be like ISIS. ISIS is terrorists, right? That's a terrorist group. Now they're expanding it to, well, you know who else? Like white supremacists, that's a big one. You know where white supremacists are? Video games. Therefore, gamers are the target of our counterterrorism operations, right? And so they're expanding it to law-abiding citizens and subjecting them to monitoring, surveillance, censorship.
So ask yourself this. Do giant corporations and government officials suddenly give a giant fuck about transgender and non-white representation in all forms of media just because they are nice? Or is there an ulterior motive? Because I'm pretty sure that the same corporations and government officials that are pumping money into trans activist groups don't really give a flying fuck about marginalised groups. There is a motivation here, and it's always money and power. Although in this case, the power might be exerted against some parties. E.g., some entities are being compelled to support these causes in some cases, because non-compliance with ESG metrics spells trouble for their operation. BlackRock has made that fact very clear.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year. And what we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same thing.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race, or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities, and we're going to have to force change.
Essentially, all this ESG, DEI, World Economic Forum, Great Reset policy being pushed down the chain of command from Davos and policed through entities like BlackRock is ultimately a rug pull on capitalism. They want to take away all your shit, physically and culturally, and force the global population to pay rent on anything they have, charge you money to leave your home, have you exist with a fraction of what you're used to, but pay through the fucking nose for it. It's basically like someone stealing your house, remortgaging it against your will, and now you have to repay the mortgage, and rent, and the bank gets to keep the lot. In fact, it's eerily similar to other phenomena in the gaming industry, like how Ubisoft recently announced that gamers need to get used to not owning their games. In order to magic money out of the proverbial thin air, Ubisoft wants us to pay to access the game, pay a subscription fee, pay for in-game content, and pay extra for the premium service. And at the end of all of this, they want us to not actually own the game. How rude is that? Why sell a game for 50 quid when you can rinse the customer for £200 to £300 a year? And since they don't own the games, you can pull the rug out anytime you choose and force them to buy another fucking game. You will own nothing, and you would better get happy about the idea of still paying for it, paying rent on it, and paying for all the associated extras. This is what the Great Reset is all about. It's some bright sparks at Davos realising that the only way to keep the ever-increasing profits train rolling down the tracks is to convert the peon population back to the kind of power conditions we enjoyed as serfs in the Middle Ages. And they plan to use digitisation, tokenisation, and AI to do it. Monetize even the most basic aspects of human life, like leaving your home, driving on roads, or going to the fucking park for a little cry. No wonder this is all being rolled out with global oppressive censorship laws and a clampdown on misinformation. Do you honestly think it's some magical coincidence that the UK, Ireland, Canada, Scotland, and a host of other Western countries all coincidentally rolled out very swinging censorship laws, all at the same time? I used to think this was a conspiracy theory too, but a bit of time watching their own crazy videos on the World Economic Forum website, well, suddenly this shit became very real. I'm serious. If you think I sound crazy, go and read Klaus Schwab's own book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, where he literally spews out his master plan for turning the global population into a homogenous mass of micromanaged serfs, where we own nothing, have zero control, social services are run by AI, government is run mostly by elites, and apparently, according to that psychotic cartoon villain, we will be happy. My arse. Anyone who thinks human beings can be happy when they have no agency, they live in pods, they are eating protein bars made from crickets, and are treated like worker drones, only they don't have a job, clearly is basing their opinion of human nature on their subservient house servants and compliant prostitutes. Well, that's enough today, methinks. The video was never meant to be this long, but what can I say? So many arseholes, so little time. In the next instalment, I will reluctantly get to the point. It had to happen sooner or later, after all. So hang up your tinfoil hats at the door as you leave, and I'll give them a quick polish, so they're ready for you in part 2. But for now, good luck, and happy hunting.